Carousel and a roller coaster. 175,000 guests visited Tivoli in the first short season. And after Tivoli was opened, there were a few buildings built, and some of those buildings are even there to this day. And also on Tivoli's official website, it stated Tivoli's oldest buildings are the Pantomime Theater, built in 1874, the Japanese Tower, built in 1990, and NIM, built in 1909, because the original burned in a fire. And the NIM is like right now, or to this day, they use the NIM for a hotel where people stay. And the other buildings, like the Pantomime Theater, that's actually still there to this day too, and they still use it for like plays or comedies. That will be like playing there during the day sometimes. And today, the placement of Tivoli is actually different from where it was when it first started. Eleanor Beardsley states on NPR Radio August 15, 2012, when it was built, Tivoli was outside the city. Today, it sits snugly in the center, as Copenhagen has grown around it. The 20-acre park can't get any larger, so it grows up. So because it sits in the middle of the city, it can't really get any larger, expand out. So different rides such as like the carousel or other roller coasters, they get bigger and bigger. And we'll talk about that later throughout the speech. And the first season Tivoli was open, I talked about how there was 175,000 guests the first season. There's actually a lot more people that attend Tivoli even to this day, even though it's across the world. Mary Jo Collins states on FanZone, August 2010, Tivoli brought in 3.9 million visitors in 2011. It is the second most visited seasonal theme park in the world. And now that I've talked about the history of Tivoli, I'll talk about the attractions, the variety of attractions in Tivoli. And there's not only thrill rides there, there's also different attractions you can visit if you're not the type of person who likes to ride big roller coasters and stuff. On Tivoli's official website, it stated different rides that are available at Tivoli. And some of the thrill rides that you'll see there are rides called the Demon, which is 1 minute and 40 seconds, and it contains a bunch of loops and speed. And then there's the Vertigo, which opened May 2009, and it's a looping plane ride where the rider actually pilots the ride. And then there's the Starflyer, the world's tallest carousel, and the structure is 80 meters high. And then there's the roller coaster, and this is the same roller coaster that was there when they built the park. And the track is 720 meters long, and wagons achieve a top speed of 50 kilometers an hour. It was built in 1914 and is the oldest wooden roller coaster in the world. And for different attractions, if you're not looking for thrill rides, Tivoli actually provides you with 27 restaurants, and out of those 27 restaurants, there's a Hard Rock Cafe, and that was built in 1995 by Tivoli architects. So if you've been to Hard Rock Cafes in America, it's not the same. The architecture of the Hard Rock there is a lot different. It's a Danish style. And there's also different attractions. Traveling guide Kate Sekuls writes on Travel and Leisure article, Copenhagen involving Tivoli Gardens, August 2010, the Anderson Bakery, which in a typically Tivolonian cross-cultural mashup is a Japanese store with Danish pastries that's named, of course, after Hans Christian himself. So the pastries are named after the king who gave permission for the land to be used to be used for Tivoli. And there's actually a lot of different buildings there that are cross-cultured. There's a bunch of Japanese buildings and dragons, so it's not really like Danish style architecture. It's a lot of different cultures used in one amusement park. And now that I've talked about the different attractions you can visit in Tivoli, I'll talk about the influence that Tivoli has had on Walt Disney himself on building an amusement park. And Danish studier Anders Holt states in Why is Tivoli Known by Most People, 2011, in 1958, Walt Disney visited Tivoli again, as he did before. It later turned out that his Disneyland was much inspired by his early visits to Tivoli. And Eleanor Beardsley also mentions on NPR Radio, August 15, 2012, Walt Disney was so enthralled during a visit, he said he wanted his parks to emulate Tivoli's happy, unbuttoned atmosphere of fun. And Kate Sekules mentions in her article Copenhagen's Evolving Tivoli Gardens, August 2010, Walt Disney famously took his inspiration from Tivoli, but also he borrowed its whimsy. He left behind this serious design. But Walt Disney didn't just get like his design and his ideas for like the design from Tivoli. He also got other things from Tivoli, and there's a bunch of similarities between the different parks. And a Danish history expert, Michael Barrier, states several similarities between Tivoli and Disney in an essay titled European Journal, October 13, 2009. Like the Disney parks, Tivoli has been adding thrill rides that appeal to young adults, including tremendously exciting new roller coaster called the Demon. And in the beginning of Disneyland, there wasn't thrill rides in the first few years. It actually took a while for Walt Disney to add thrill rides to his park, and he took ideas off of Tivoli to get thrill rides of his own. And Michael Barrier also quotes, "It is the center of the park that's a vital similarity to Disneyland, at least as Walt Disney conceived it. It's unmistakable because it's there that the park is dominated by flowers and elegant landscaping, immediately reminiscent of Bill Evans' work for Disney." And so there's a lot of similarities with the landscaping of Tivoli. There's a bunch of different areas like of flowers in Tivoli and parks where people can just go visit and outside of where the rides are. And some other similarities that Michael Barrier quotes, like Disneyland in its early years, Tivoli charges separately for admission and for rides. So nowadays, Disney charges admission for rides and for the park together because Disney is more changed towards the rides aspect instead of just the landscaping, going there to go see different areas. People usually go there just for the rides. It's changed since Walt Disney first started the park. And with Tivoli, they charge people to go into the park, and if you want to go on the rides, they charge you a separate admission for rides as well, because most people or some people actually just go to the amusement park just to go to the restaurants instead of the rides, which normally people go to amusement parks here in America for. And another similarity, like Disney parks, Tivoli has its popular parades. With Disneyland, they have the parades with the Disney characters, but in Tivoli, for instance, they have these guards. They're like marching guards, and that's what they do for their parades instead. So it's a little more serious instead of like little Disney characters, but they both have their parades. And so now that, or in conclusion, you know the different the history of Tivoli and the many attractions that you could see if you decided to go visit, and the influence that Tivoli has had on one of America's greatest amusement parks. So if you want a chance to go back to your childhood, maybe take a trip to Denmark and see for yourself. Just as Walt Disney said, adults are only kids grown up. And are there any questions? None at all? Any questions? No? Sure. Anyone want
What
to
did
ask
you
a
like
question?
about Tivoli?
My favorite part of Tivoli probably was there was a ride, the Vertigo, and it was the one where you pilot yourself. And I've never ever been on a ride like that before. It was crazy. I didn't think it was gonna be that bad since like I've been on other rides. But when I went on that ride, it was like we went up and Eric was piloting the ride, my friend, and like when I went upside down, I blacked out because it's so fast and you go upside down and stuff, and it's just like pressure and this like gravity. It's like gravity is down on you, and it's crazy. That'd probably be my favorite thing about Tivoli. Any other questions? Okay.